I've identified the top 5 mistakes that people are making in their sales funnel process that is stopping them from growing their business effectively. Having watched tons and tons of YouTube videos, countless hours of tutorials, and also countless hours looking at people's sales funnels, I thought I would share with you the 5 mistakes and explain to you exactly how you can remedy them if they exist in your business, and also what you shouldn't do if you're just starting out with your business. So before we get into those 5 mistakes, let me just clarify what we're talking about here. We're talking about the sales process as part of a sales funnel. This sales funnel typically will start with content that will go through into email marketing and then potentially to what we call a sales landing page and then a closed sale. And throughout that funnel, there are plenty of places where you can actually make a real mistake and you can lose conversions, or you can lose someone out of the funnel, which means that they won't convert as a sale at the end of it. And if you're doing any one of these 5 mistakes as part of your business sales process, then you should seriously consider changing it, because you could literally be derailing your own business opportunities. So mistake number 1 is actually to do with email. So I've seen tons and tons of influencers who are literally just sticking a link in the video description of their YouTube channel and saying, buy my product. And the reality is that whilst some people will do that, unless that offering is super good and you've already aligned your content to it, you're going to have a tough time converting them just from video to sale. The best way to encourage a sale is to actually nurture that relationship more by including an email marketing campaign in between your content and your sale, so that after you've delivered content to them, you create a personal relationship which is on a different level from a casual viewer, and that person can then receive emails from you explaining further value, and then that person will be more likely to buy from you in the future. Now, regardless of how you use emails, it is criminal to not be capturing these upfront. There's a ton of other reasons why you should capture email addresses, such as platforms that might deactivate your account and effectively lose you your entire audience. And so therefore you need to be capturing email addresses as part of your sales process. Now, mistake number 2 is also to do with email, but this is how you use email addresses when you have them. So another mistake that people make is capturing people's email addresses and then not really using them for anything. They don't act on them immediately, because if the person who signed up to your email list has not actually received any emails from you or any value, they will wonder what they just signed up for. And then if you try to email them maybe 6-12 months down the line, that initial warm lead is going to have cooled down and will now be a cold prospect, and you have much less chance of converting them to a sale. So when you capture email addresses, the important thing here is to actually use them as part of a planned campaign that you already have, and to keep them being supplied with information and value via email as well as content. Remember that any emails you send to someone need to be intentional. They need to be supplied to people as part of a strategy to help people solve the problems that they were originally watching your content for. And so to fix this, you would simply have a plan before you start capturing people's email addresses, and then consider that another part of your business that you have to stay on top of. You have to manage an email list, and you have to continue to give someone value for them to stay on it. Now, there is a tipping point here where if you do too many emails, you will have a problem, but we'll cover that in another video. So now we're going to move on to mistake number 3. And this is probably one of the most common things that I see when people try to drive someone towards a sale. So have you ever clicked a sales link and then noticed you've landed on a full-blown website? There's product pages, there's an about us page, there's a home page, there's a contact us page. Guess what? All of that stuff will completely detract from your sale. If you are doing this, what you are doing is pushing someone to an asset where they can now explore. You haven't given them a particular journey to go on, and therefore, because the link didn't have a direct pathway for the person to potentially go and buy a product, you will probably lose them in the sale process. Remember, if you just randomly present loads of things to someone and then they have to decide what to do next, the chances are that you haven't been very clear in your messaging. And the reality is they just want a solution to their problem. You've promised it in some content, maybe that was a video or an email, and then what you want is someone to come in and want to buy that product or that service and get on with it and not have to worry about learning who you are and all the fun things that you might put on a website for just brand awareness. So importantly, you need to replace your website as a link to selling a product and actually use a sales landing page which has a dedicated and intentional purpose for selling the product or service that you're offering. Now that takes us nicely into mistake number 4, which is also to do with the sales landing page. So I have arrived on many sales landing pages and wondered, how on earth would I have time to read through all of this? And you probably have as well. If you look at the page and there is like 90 pages of HTML to scroll through with testimonials all over the place and a crazy structure with someone constantly trying to convince you throughout to buy something, then the chances are your sales landing page is shit. And I'm not saying that just to be derogatory, but if you are just plastering stuff in there trying to give 9,000 reasons why someone needs to buy the product, then the chances are that what you're trying to sell is not clear enough to the user in the proposition that you outlined in your content that brought someone to your landing page. Now, a landing page only needs 4 key components with an optional 5th. So on the landing page, you need to address these 4 things. What is the product or service that you're offering? Why does the person need the product or service that you're offering? How much does the product or service cost? And how can the user buy the product or service? Those 4 things are the formula for a successful landing page. And if you can encapsulate that in this short amount of page as possible, then you will get more sales than some 50-page long thing where you're scrolling through, reading all the pointless review reviews or Trustpilot reviews that can be falsified and easily manufactured. You don't need to do all of that. What you need to do is be clear and intentional in how you place your product, and you need to make sure that the headlines about your product, about what it is, how much it costs, and all of that stuff are clear and at the top of your sales landing page. Do not make the mistake of trying to write a 9,000-page long sales landing page and then blast someone with a massive price at the end. You need to be very intentional about getting someone to take action, and if you can do that in the shortest amount of time possible, you will get the most sales impact from it. Now, the optional 5th thing that you might put on your sales landing page to just support someone's purchase is the offer of something like a money-back guarantee, and this is because it adds value to the person who's purchasing it and gives them some security in case they've made a mistake when they've purchased it, because then they will be trusting knowing that you're going to offer them some money back, and provided that you put the terms clearly about how that will work, that will help you to close more sales. Anything else that you choose to put on your sales landing page is potentially just noise and may detract from you getting the sale. So the 5th and final mistake that I've identified, and is probably the most important mistake that people make when it comes to closing sales, and it's to do with content. Now, if you're just posting random videos on YouTube and then you've just got loads of links in your description and there's no intention to actually drive someone to that in the content that you're creating, again, you are missing out on a massive opportunity to either get someone to sign up to your email list or go to a sales landing page and buy a product or whatever else. What you have to remember is that if you're trying to get a sale from something, the content that you create has to be intentional around what it is that you're selling as a product or a service. If the content is misaligned or doesn't even relate, you'll have a challenge in trying to get somebody to buy that product from you. You'll see this a lot with people who put 50 links in their YouTube video description about, oh, here's the camera I use and here's the computer I use, because they're just trying to get affiliate commissions passively without putting in any extra effort. But if I made a video specifically talking about why this camera is a life changer and how it's changed my business and all this kind of stuff, I could then create a very intentional piece of content that drives someone to potentially purchase that camera or sign up to a service that I offer where I teach them about how the camera works and all the fun stuff that comes with it. But the key thing there is the content is intentional and designed so that it's relevant to you clicking the link as a user when you see it. Now, what we have to remember with content, it is the first potential touch point with a prospective customer or someone who is just a casual viewer at the start. So we have to make sure that we position the content correctly to the person that we're talking to, and then align any links and things that we have in our descriptions to actually match the expectation of what we want them to do in order for them to get additional value on top of the content value that we've already provided. So make your content intentional and focus it around the sale, because that is ultimately why you're doing this in the first place. Now, for all of those 5 mistakes, if you already have a business, I strongly recommend that you go back through them and you check whether you're making this mistake in your business, because I almost guarantee you these will all be impacting someone in one way, shape or form. And if you can address it, you will potentially get more sales on top of what you get already. And if you're a new business and you're just starting out and looking for some advice on how to do this stuff, these tips will play really well into your hands, because that means then you can be really intentional in how you build your content strategy, how you build your email marketing strategy, and also how you set up your sales landing page to make it really, really optimal and not 90 pages of bullshit. Now, closing sales out is a really important step in the process. And in a couple of these mistakes, we talked about emails and their importance and how you can actually drive customer value. And that is why I'd recommend watching the video that's on screen next, because I will break down why email is super important for growing your business and 5 simple steps that you can take in order to make sure that email is set up correctly and appropriately for your business growth strategy. So make sure you click on that video next, and I will see you over there.